The funeral of the oldest member of the royal family is a hugely historic moment, and here's why. Senior royals have gathered at Westminster Cathedral here to pay their final respects and attend a requiem mass for the Duchess of Kent. Later in life, the Duchess converted to Catholicism, and that's what makes this funeral so historic. It's the first Catholic mass for a royal in modern times.
Catherine takes on the responsibilities for the Duchy of Cornwall.
All our thoughts are with her beloved family, our royal family, at this moment of profound grief. This is a deep and private loss for them.
Once scandal-ridden and ostracized, Andrew's presence was already controversial. Pairing it with Sarah's made the moment even more intriguing. Was this a quiet attempt at rehabilitation? A reminder that the disgraced Duke of York still sees himself as part of royal life. Yet even this curious return didn't dominate the news cycle, because Kate, again, overshadowed them all. So as Charles carried tradition, Andrew tested boundaries, and history itself was written inside Westminster Cathedral. The world kept circling back to one woman. Kate, with her pearls, her curtsy, and her quiet kiss, may have just shifted the royal narrative. But was this simply a symbolic tribute at a funeral? Or was it something much bigger, the beginning of Catherine stepping into a role that Camilla's absence left wide open? Stay with us. The palace whispers about Camilla, and why this funeral could mark the start of a new chapter in the monarchy. The world saw a funeral, but the palace insiders, they saw a power play. When Catherine kissed the king and curtsied with grace, it wasn't just a daughter-in-law honoring her father-in-law. It was the Princess of Wales positioning herself as the emotional heart of the monarchy. And with Camilla absent, the comparison was impossible to ignore. For years, Camilla has worked hard to win over a public that once saw her only as the other woman. She has gradually taken on the duties of queen consort, appearing alongside Charles at state visits and ceremonies. But illness struck at the wrong moment. While Camilla retreated from public view, Kate shined. And for many, the contrast was striking. It wasn't Camilla who carried Elizabeth's pearls. It wasn't Camilla who embodied dignity and warmth in front of the cameras. It wasn't Camilla whose affectionate gestures toward Charles captured headlines worldwide. Instead, it was Kate. And so, the whispers began. Is Kate quietly stepping into the role of queen before her time? Pearls, curtsies, kisses, these may seem small details, but in the monarchy, they are everything. Royal power has always lived in symbolism. The pearls tied Kate directly to Elizabeth's legacy. The curtsy showed loyalty and tradition, affirming Charles's reign. The kiss humanized the moment, giving a glimpse of warmth often missing in stiff royal ceremonies. Together, these gestures built an image, Kate as both the loyal subject and the future queen. For King Charles, the spotlight on Kate is a double-edged sword. On one hand, her popularity strengthens the monarchy, ensuring that the younger generation is embraced by the public. On the other, her rising star risks overshadowing both him and Camilla. Charles has fought for decades to secure Camilla's acceptance. To see Kate step into the limelight so naturally, so seamlessly, may stir unease behind closed palace doors. But as sovereign, Charles must also think strategically. If the public adores Kate, then perhaps leaning into her image is the smartest way to secure the monarchy's future. Camilla's absence sparked another round of whispers. Officially, it's sinusitis, but royal watchers speculate, is her health more fragile than Buckingham Palace lets on? And if Camilla cannot consistently appear by Charles's side, then the contrast with Kate will only grow sharper. Each absence becomes an opportunity for Catherine to shine, whether intentional or not. This funeral wasn't supposed to be about Catherine. Yet by the end of the day, she had become the headline. And it wasn't just the media making the comparison. Among mourners, subtle glances, nods, and even whispers suggested that Kate's role is expanding before the world's eyes. She's not just William's wife anymore. She is the future. The days following the service were filled with commentary, analysis, and speculation. Newspapers ran front-page spreads of Catherine's emotional tribute, with photos capturing the exact moment her eyes shimmered with tears under the cathedral's vaulted ceilings. Editorials praised her grace and strength, calling her the anchor of the monarchy in waiting. But while Kate basked in this outpouring of public affection, King Charles was enduring a different reality. His solitary appearance at the funeral reignited old conversations about the stability of his reign, and more poignantly, about the health and absence of Queen Camilla. For months, whispers about Camilla's condition had circulated, but Buckingham Palace remained tight-lipped. Officially, she was resting due to minor health concerns. Yet, her repeated absences at major events were painting a more troubling picture. Royal watchers couldn't ignore that Charles, who had long leaned on her presence at his side, suddenly appeared isolated, carrying the symbolic weight of the crown alone. And here's where the contrast struck hardest. While Charles seemed weighed down by duty and absence, Kate was being elevated in the public eye as the embodiment of compassion, resilience, and continuity. The funeral itself became a study in body language. Observers noted the way Charles kept his gaze lowered, his hands clasped tightly together. He seemed, in moments, not the king of the United Kingdom, but an aging man burdened by loss and loneliness. The empty seat beside him was more than just a physical absence, it was a symbol. Meanwhile, when Kate rose to deliver her tribute, the atmosphere shifted palpably. The audience leaned in. Even those watching at home described feeling as though her words reached through the screen. Her carefully chosen remarks didn't just honor the departed, they celebrated the enduring values of service, family, and resilience, values many feel she embodies more than any other royal today. Royal biographers have already begun framing this moment as one of Kate's defining public milestones, akin to Diana's speeches that once captivated the world. For Charles, however, it became another reminder of the precariousness of his reign. In the days that followed, polls began circulating across British media outlets. One striking survey asked citizens who they felt best represented the future of the monarchy. Catherine topped the list with overwhelming support, surpassing even William. Charles, by contrast, was viewed sympathetically, but not inspirationally. The numbers were telling. 68% praised Kate's emotional tribute as sincere and moving. 54% expressed concern about Charles' ability to lead without Camilla at his side. And a surprising 41% of respondents suggested the monarchy would be stronger under William and Kate sooner rather than later. This wasn't a call for abdication, but the undertone was clear. The contrast between Kate's growing influence and Charles' vulnerabilities had never been sharper. Insiders have hinted that this contrast did not go unnoticed inside Buckingham Palace. Staff reportedly remarked on the extraordinary reaction to Kate's words and how quickly her speech trended globally on social media. Comparisons with Charles' muted presence at the funeral became a quiet topic of discussion, though never openly voiced in front of the king. Charles, ever mindful of optics, is said to have been both proud and slightly unsettled. Proud, because Catherine represents the stability and respectability he's worked so hard to secure for the monarchy. Unsettled, because her soaring public appeal threatens to overshadow his authority at a moment when he most needs the spotlight. The Queen Consort's absence only amplified these feelings. Had Camilla been by his side, some of the attention might have balanced. Instead, Charles stood alone, with Catherine's glow inevitably magnified in contrast. The media, of course, thrives on contrasts like these. Headlines were ruthless in their framing. Catherine's poise at funeral outshines Charles' solitude. Where was Camilla? Kate carries the monarchy while King Charles looks on. Tabloids, especially, speculated endlessly about Camilla's health, feeding public curiosity. Was her absence purely medical, or was it strategic? Some even wondered whether the palace deliberately kept her away to avoid public criticism, knowing she's never enjoyed the same affection as Kate. Meanwhile, clips of Catherine's tribute flooded TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, amassing millions of views. Hashtags like #PrincessKateTribute and #FutureQueen trended for days, while discussions about Charles barely registered in the same way. Within the royal family itself, the dynamics are shifting. William is acutely aware of his wife's growing public appeal, and while he remains supportive, there's always the question of balance. How do you share a stage with someone who captivates the room effortlessly? For Charles, the challenge is even greater. He's king now, but he knows that public perception often shapes legacy more than formal titles. To see his daughter-in-law praised as the real rock of the monarchy must carry a sting, even if he'd never admit it. Royal insiders describe this as a delicate dance. Catherine must shine, but not too brightly, lest it cast too long a shadow over Charles' reign. Yet the funeral, with its raw emotion and poignant contrasts, made that balance nearly impossible. As Britain reflects on the funeral and its implications, one narrative is emerging clearly. Catherine is not just the Princess of Wales, she is the monarchy's most powerful asset. Her ability to connect emotionally with the public ensures the crown remains relevant in an era when many question its role. Charles, meanwhile, faces the uphill task of leading without Camilla at key moments. His reign is already defined by transition, from the era of Elizabeth II to the modern monarchy shaped by William and Catherine. Events like this funeral only accelerate that perception. And so, as we step back from the grandeur of ceremonies and the meticulous choreography of royal events, we're left with a striking dual image. Catherine, radiant even in grief, capturing the nation's heart with words that felt both deeply personal and universally resonant. Charles, solitary and subdued, weighed down not only by loss, but by the empty chair beside him, and by the awareness that his daughter-in-law may be carrying the torch of the monarchy more brightly than he can. It's a story of generational shift, of duty and emotion colliding on a very public stage. And perhaps, it's a reminder that the monarchy, for all its tradition, is still defined by individuals, their presence, their absence, their words, and their silences. What do you think? Did Kate's tribute truly outshine Charles at this somber occasion? Or was the king unfairly cast in her shadow because of Camilla's absence? Let's talk about it in the comments below. The palace never expected today's farewell to become tomorrow's headlines. But when the British royals gathered for a once-in-centuries funeral, it wasn't just history that people noticed, it was the shifting balance of power inside the House of Windsor. As King Charles led the mourners through an emotional and historic ceremony, the cameras didn't linger only on him. Instead, the world saw Catherine, Princess of Wales, not just as William's wife, not just as the future queen, but as the woman who quietly stole the spotlight. And there was the silence, the empty space where Queen Camilla should have been. This is the story of a historic farewell, a symbolic tribute, and the whispers of a power shift that no one inside Buckingham Palace dares to say out loud. On a cool September morning, Westminster Cathedral became the stage for history. The funeral of Catherine, Duchess of Kent, marked the first Roman Catholic funeral for a senior royal in nearly 400 years. A moment of unity, tradition, and breaking of old barriers. King Charles, dressed in solemn mourning attire, carried the weight of history on his shoulders. He had to show strength, continuity, and respect. But for all his gravitas, something unusual was happening. The narrative wasn't controlled entirely by him, because across the aisle stood Kate Middleton, and she wasn't there simply as a supporting figure. When Catherine entered, she wore black, but not just any black. Her look was carefully constructed, each detail chosen with precision. Around her neck rested a pearl and diamond choker, a piece that once belonged to Queen Elizabeth II. This wasn't just jewelry, it was symbolism. Pearls, long associated with mourning in royal tradition, were also Elizabeth's signature. By wearing them, Kate wasn't only honoring the late queen, she was making a statement. The monarchy lives on through her. And then came the moment that truly caught the world's attention. After the service, Kate leaned in to greet King Charles. A kiss on his cheek, a deep, respectful curtsy. In that one gesture, audiences saw more than etiquette. They saw warmth, they saw loyalty, and perhaps, they saw the subtle emergence of Catherine as the emotional bridge between the monarchy's past and its uncertain future. But while Kate's gestures were loud in their silence, another silence was deafening, the absence of Queen Camilla. Buckingham Palace explained it simply: the Queen Consort was unwell, suffering from acute sinusitis. Yet, her absence at such a historic royal funeral sparked speculation. Would Camilla have wanted to miss this moment? Could she have risked the optics of leaving Charles alone at such a high-profile event? Or was her absence not just about illness, but a reminder of fragility, of a queen consort who still struggles to fully win the nation's embrace? Whatever the reason, the cameras turned elsewhere. And who filled that gap? Kate. For King Charles, the day was heavy enough, saying goodbye to his cousin, honoring royal tradition, and leading the family as sovereign. Yet the optics complicated matters. Without Camilla by his side, Charles appeared more isolated. Yes, his son William stood nearby. Yes, the family was united. But in the public imagination, images matter. And the image of Charles, solemn yet alone, contrasted sharply with Kate's warmth, her tribute, her effortless ability to command attention without saying a word. In a monarchy where symbolism often matters more than speeches, that contrast became the headline. And then, there was the subplot. As if the funeral didn't already carry enough drama, Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson appeared together, a rare sight that raised eyebrows.